Mr. Speaker, as I add my support to my colleagues in commending Budget 2023, I do so very conscious of the efforts that have been expended by gynaes across sectors in ministries, giving their input to a budget that is transformational, a budget that is cross-cutting, a budget that is integrated, and a budget that focuses on every aspect of human development and country development comprehensively. As I thank all of those members of staff across ministries, I must recognize the astute leadership of my colleague, Dr. Ashni Kumar Singh, and his team from the Ministry of Finance in crafting what is the biggest budget that we've seen to date. This budget is one that offers much to many, but I will focus on the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security and give you insight into work that has been done, work that is planned, and work that I'm sure that will have an impact on the lives of the most vulnerable and populations that will definitely understand how this budget will impact them, because like last year, they will live it this year and feel the impact on their lives. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this budget is something that my colleagues on the other side should support. Wouldn't you want to support the government's efforts towards children, education for children, the efforts of the government towards keeping children safe, the efforts of government towards providing for children with disability, the efforts of government for providing solutions for mothers who would want to leave their children in safe and secure places? Mr. Speaker, that is the legacy of the People's Progressive Party civic government in catering for children across the length and breadth of this country, children who depend on parents, and as such, there is much in this budget for families across the country. As a government, we believe in the stability of families. We believe in community development. We believe in infrastructural development. We're not a government that is impervious to the global crises that is affecting every country in this world. We're not a government that is oblivious to the trends in the world that would have had an impact on so many different aspects of governance and the way people govern. In fact, we have offered as a government tangible solutions to the challenges to food security, making Guyana pivotal in CARICOM, the voice of CARICOM, providing the solutions that CARICOM is following, the region is looking at, the world is looking at in terms of fighting the global crises. Mr. Speaker, we in this National Assembly should not resort to the usual broken narrative of divisiveness and polarization. This is a country that wants unity. This is a country that demands inclusivity. And this is a country that I am very proud of, where our people would like to benefit from what we as a government would have managed to do in just 2 years. Mr. Speaker, if I am to look at what the world says about gender equality, I can quote from a report from the World Economic Forum report. This report is usually presented annually and was first presented in 2006 and speaks to the global gender equality gap insight report. And it's an important thing because, Mr. Speaker, one of the key indicators is economic participation and opportunity. And this is very important because it speaks to what I've been listening to being questioned. This is not Guyana government doing it. This is the World Economic Forum. And in just 1 year, last year, 2022, Guyana traversed 18 spots up from place number 53 to 35. And there have been numerous indicators. And I'm only speaking of what is relevant to my sector. However, if we're to look at many of the other sectors, we could have seen that the contributions of programs that transform the employment prospects of people across the country would have been recognized in moving us 18 spots up. For example, we can speak of Goal, Grow, Win, BIT, just to name a few of those programs that do not come with a price tag. They come absolutely free. They're accessible to all the people of Guyana. You know, one of the members on that side of the House, I believe it was the Honorable Member, Mr. Royce Ford, who spoke about government's boots being on the neck of people. They were on the neck of people in 5 years with a taxation-existent budget, budgets that were crafted on the taxes on the backs of people. Mr. Speaker, this is a budget that does not give any new taxes to the people. None at all. In fact, the income tax threshold has been increased so that people are able to have in their pockets $3 billion and 12,000 people are not in the tax net anymore. That is the level of the kind of development, the kind of governance, and the kind of input that we want to have on the people of this country. Mr. Speaker, I will be happy to provide this report to you. In fact, in education attainment, Guyana ranks first globally, tying with 21 other countries, such as Canada, Brazil, the Netherlands, and Jamaica, which is the only other Caribbean country in first place. Read it. Guyana has also tied for first place in ranking for enrollment in both secondary and tertiary education. This is especially important as it clearly indicates the outcomes and long-term impacts of projects implemented by the government. I continue. The construction of schools and provision of human and other resources in Amerindian communities throughout the interior regions of Guyana has made educational accessible and attainable, even during periods where Guyana has had limited fiscal capacity. This is an expansive report, Mr. Speaker, and I'll be presenting it to you on conclusion of what I'm saying. Mr. Speaker, I believe that I'd like to ask my colleagues, my Guyanese brothers and sisters on the opposite side of the House to remove the myopic lens, to remove the obligatory mantle that they like to wear when it comes to causing division and rejecting progress and development. You know, it's a simple walk from over there to over here. And deep down, I know you want to do it. You are more than welcome. We embrace collaboration. We embrace your support. We embrace your working with us. Feel free to walk across the floor. It's as easy as that. Mr. Speaker, when we look at our country, no country is insulated from the world economy and the global crises. But we want to say that Guyana has managed to, in the shortest possible time, have the opportunity to transform the lives of women and men across the country, a program that I'm immeasurably proud of, the Women's Innovation Investment Network Program, and there's nothing to compare it to in your 5 years because nothing existed. The WIN initiative is a program that has produced 6,193 trained persons across every region in this country. In fact, just last year, we were able to provide free training with no prerequisite required for admission, and 4,033 women and men benefited from that training, which is free, which is offered in a hybrid model, and which allows them the potential of employment and starting a micro enterprise. Mr. Speaker, no amount of noise will dissuade me from presenting irrefutable facts that 6,193 people across this country have benefited. And this year, $100 million will ensure 6,000 more women and men benefiting this year alone. Mr. Speaker, I want to say it is not only training, but this is a comprehensive model of training, moving people into our Win in Business clinic, giving them business literacy training, moving them into the field of micro-enterprise. On of a sample of 2,339 of these persons who have been trained, we have 48% of them who would have developed business proposals and 25% of them who own a business. That is the level of progress that has happened in 1 year. For the first time in the region, for the first time in the Caribbean, and definitely for the first time in Guyana, we have an app that is called the Win app, where 750 women have the opportunity to advertise their business for free. Coming this year with a collaboration with MMG, these women will be in a position to offer their products for sale on this app. This is a beautiful blend of IT, entrepreneurship, and vision. Mr. Speaker, I would like to continue on Win and to say that there are so many projects that will result in people from the hinterland and across the coastland, in remote and rural areas who will benefit from that Win training. Those who've been trained in professional courses like elder care, child care, patient care, will now benefit from the opportunity, whether individually or in consortium, to be able to be referral points where patients from hospitals, people who would like to have access to caregivers who are trained, they can do this, utilizing those persons who have been trained through the WIN program. One of the novel initiatives that have been established, and this year will really speak to thousands of women who, when they saw this announced in the 2023 budget, they were ecstatic. And that was the establishment of day, night care, and early childhood development centers. This is a blended model, and this is the first of its kind in the region, definitely in the Caribbean, and I can venture to say perhaps in the world. And I have recognized that women who work long hours, people who work long hours, parents, single parents, mothers and fathers who would like a safe space for their children to be kept while they're at work, they now will have the option, as this budget provides $100 million so that we can start construction of these day and night care and early childhood development centers. Mr. Speaker, this offers a sanctuary for children, and those persons who've been trained, not only are they trained in child care, they will also receive training in special needs as well as early childhood, and this can be something that Guyana is very proud of. Mr. Speaker, as we continue to look at what was achieved and what is to be achieved, I think I cannot go forward without recognizing that the WIN program operates out of a building called the Guyana Women's Leadership Institute. This was a building that was in serious disrepair. Everything had grounded to a halt, and now that building is a thriving hub, completed with modern classrooms, a brand new computer lab, a Win in Business incubator, and will house the first of the day, night care, and early childhood development centers. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, we're adding to this because we understand that People, especially women, like to cook. Why not make it profitable? And so we will be putting out for those women an opportunity to have free training where they can, from this training, start their own businesses. A state-of-the-art culinary center will be launched in the first quarter of this month, and women across the country will have access to training at no cost to them. Mr. Speaker, and it's not just training. This training is certificate training done by the University of the West Indies, the UK ABMA, and through Coursera, offering those persons who come through the WIN program an opportunity of stackable courses, giving them a recognizable qualification that puts them on easy footing to further develop themselves in the technical vocational field, to have employment, or to start their own micro-enterprise. Mr. Speaker, we have been in talks with a number of entities, the Private Sector Commission, GCCI, to ensure that these women have an entry into those places where ordinarily they never had such an opportunity. The fact that this speaks to women who have never before been in the world of business is a powerful message to all women in our country. This is empowerment. This is real empowerment. Nothing can be achieved without single-minded focus and hard work. And Mr. Speaker, I am prepared to work hard. In fact, I am a hard worker. And I believe that I work with people who have similar vision with me to make these things materialize. In fact, if we looked at the first week of registration, over 7,000 people applied. We didn't only leave them like that. Over 3,000 women benefited from seed funding for their businesses through a collaboration with the World Food Programme. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that mothers, the single parents that we consider, the single fathers, the single mothers, they will also benefit from subsidies which come out of the ministry that helps them with their child care costs. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the We Lift activity that is usually celebrated around International Women's Day has grown. From 75 women-owned businesses, we grew to 150 women-owned businesses under one roof, under the We Lift program. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Human Services, Gender Affairs Bureau continues to work with men and women across the country, developing women's groups, men's groups, and working to continue on the Shared Responsibilities campaign. We are now embarking on an exercise where we will be training a number of persons on gender, on shared responsibility, gender-based violence, and a number of other social issues, including coaches, taxi drivers, bartenders, to name a few of that. Our groups expand and extend throughout the length and breadth of Guyana, and work is expected to be complete on the national gender policy this year, 2023. Mr. Speaker, we have as a government always put emphasis on families, and as such our family enhancement unit will be expanded, and the excellent work that this unit has been doing in Region 4 will now move across to the various regions and will be in collaboration with our other programs so that holistically we can cater for the social issues that abound. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I have always believed that there is no need to say what people live. Work speaks for itself, and the work of the Ministry of Human Services is very visible for all of Guyana to see and to participate in. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the Child Care and Protection Agency, which is pivotal when it comes to the care of children, has been consistently working on developing a number of key areas that address child abuse. The Every Child Safe project speaks to community engagement and interaction in all of Guyana's regions, and a number of persons will benefit from training. We have produced a parenting manual and workbook, and there will be structured training for parents across this country. In addition to that, we have allowed children to express their voice as a part of us protecting child rights and giving children a platform on which they can share their experiences on safety and security. We have managed to produce a storybook where children would have shared their stories on safety and what it means to them. The Street Light Project, which falls under the Every Child Safe program, is a key project as it speaks to children who are on the streets. We have been effectively removing children from off the streets, working with their families, addressing socio-economic issues, and we have managed to remove at least 30 of those children from our streets. This program will intensify as we do not want to have any child on the street, and we must get to the source of why they're on the street, work with them and their family so there is not a recurrence. Mr. Speaker, the community approach that we are taking through the Child Care and Protection Agency is bound to yield results because we are not working in a vacuum or silo. We're also looking at those children who have special needs. This budget provides, as a promise from His Excellency, a fleet of 7 retrofitted vehicles that will help those children who are living with disabilities. And this takes me to the work of the Ministry on persons living with disabilities. Mr. Speaker, we have managed to help hundreds of persons across the length and breadth of Guyana, centrally from the Difficult Circumstances Unit and through our outreaches, to have free access to support aids, assisted aids, wheelchairs, walkers, and so many more things. Mr. Speaker, the construction of the Learning Lab, a training complex for persons living with disability, will be opened in the first quarter of this year, providing for the first time an empowerment entrepreneurship opportunity for persons living with disabilities. Last year, $100 million would have been budgeted. This year, we continue to focus on training. We continue to work with persons living with disabilities, and a revolving fund for persons living with disabilities can be accessed through the Small Business Bureau. So there is a comprehensive outlook to the kind of support and help that we are giving to the people of this country. Mr. Speaker, we have been working assiduously protecting child rights, and as such, last we were able to ensure that legislation was passed in alignment with the Hague Convention on International Adoption, which is expected to commence this year. We have been working with the U.S. State Department and other state entities and other stakeholders to ensure that this happens. Our legislative agenda is a rich one. We have completed the counter trafficking in persons legislation, and that will be brought on the floors this year. We have other pieces of legislation to consider, to review, and to bring at some time to this House, including the Domestic Violence Act, which will incorporate new forms of family violence, the Harassment Act, which I'm sure some of you will be very wary of having, but that will be happening. We will be looking at the pension and the Poor Relief Act, which are archaic pieces of legislation. Mr. Speaker, I want to say thank you to the international community that would have not only been very supportive, but would have recognized the sterling work done by the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security. These last 2 years, we would have spent looking at a number of the homes and some of the establishments that focus on the elders, on children, and on persons living with disabilities. Last year, a beautiful new kitchen and recreation center was opened at the Sophia Drop-In Center, much to the delight of hundreds of children, modern and beautiful. What they cooked in and what they ate in was akin to a shack. It was appalling and horrible. I want to say also that this year, that center will receive a much-needed facelift. We're also looking at the expansion of our shelters. We're also looking at shelters for domestic violence and trafficking in persons. And we're also looking at the residential care facility for children living with disabilities, and they will have a brand new facility. All of these will be enclosed in the Mahaika complex. Mr. Speaker, the more noise you make, it gives me the impetus to continue. Mr. Speaker, parents who have children living with disability will continue to benefit through the work of the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security and through the budget to the tune of $40.4 billion. Mr. Speaker, our pensioners would have received an increase which totals to 67% over just 2 years, now moving to this budget. And this is in comparison to less than 30% of the 5-year period of the APNU AFC government. I will not stand here and say that is the be-all and the end-all of pension, but there is a tangential increase that is planned, and pensioners will not only benefit from the increase to $33,000 and of interest, the life expectancy is increasing because we have seen from 2020 to 2023, we started with just about 60,000 pensioners. Now we are projecting 73,000 pensioners, which means we are also helping those persons to have access to their source documents so that they can access their pension. We have also transform the delivery system of pension, creating a shut-in delivery system, a direct delivery system, alternate venues so the post offices are not crowded. We're adding to this MMG very soon, and pensioners would have more than 1,000 new locations to access their pension. Mr. Speaker, and it's not only the pension, it's the water subsidy that you took away. You also raised taxes on.
Be careful, honorable member. I didn't take away anything.
The honorable members removed. Also, Mr. Speaker, we're looking at public assistance spiraling to 29,000 recipients. And this is remarkable. And this has happened because of a decision made by this government when just about 5,000 children received $100,000 cash grant towards their permanent disability. All those children are now moved to the permanent register of public assistance, which means that a significant number of that 29,000 is comprised of children and adults living with permanent disabilities. A policy change also resulted now in persons with permanent disabilities not having to apply and reapply. They can now access the public assistance more effortlessly, if I put it that way. We are creating a disability unit at the ministry that is geared for the first time ever in Guyana, a whole unit for persons living with disability, focused on their assistance, focused on supportive and assistive aids, focused on training, and focused on every single need that would arise for persons living with disabilities. In order to structure and streamline the efficiency and efficacy of our ministry, there is also going to be a senior citizens unit to focus on all of the elders and the seniors as we value their contributions, and we would like to ensure that whatever is within our power, we can provide to them so they can have a better quality of life. Mr. Speaker, the ministry's iCare program. This was a new program, and this program was able to offer to persons just in 2022, 1,230 persons free tested spectacles. Mr. Speaker, we went to communities that never had this kind of access before, including Mocha, Philippi, to name a few. And I can give you the list of all the communities so that you can hear. Baramita, Tushan, Manripo, Bartika, Yupakari, Kumaka, Camarang, Cato, Aishalton, Anai, Kwakwani, St. Cuthberts, Wakenham, Susanna's Ross, just to name some of them. Mr. Speaker, last year we were able to do just over 1,000 spectacles as well, and this is a program that we have seen make a difference in the lives of people, whether it's their education as children or pensioners whose face light up because they're able to now read their books. This is a very, very helpful program. Mr. Speaker, through the Difficult Circumstances Unit, we have also helped with home rehabilitation for pensioners and persons living with disability and single parents, and we continue to offer assistance in other areas. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I'll assist you with an extension if I get a movement.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask that my colleague be given time to continue. I know she has a very large sector and would love to have lots of time.
Honorable Minister, you'll have 5 minutes to conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The night shelter is a facility that has undergone, I would say, complete renovation from looking like what I call the chicken coop when I came into this ministry. It is now a place that provides a dignified environment for people who are homeless, people who are indigent, and people who require shelter and a hot meal. This year, the night shelter will also benefit from a kitchen. And for those of you who even deign to look at people on the street, we are not only looking at them on the street, we are removing them from the streets through our help program, and we are ensuring that they're well taken care of. We have excellent collaborations with the Mental Health Unit of the Ministry of Health and the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation to ensure that they are well taken care of. Mrs. Veerasamy, good work as the administrator. Mr. Speaker, in addition to what has been happening at the night shelter, those persons who have been removed from the streets and are able-bodied will, through a collaboration between the Ministry of Labor and Human Services, I spoke to my colleague, will be introduced a bit so that they can be trained in technical vocational skills and have the opportunity to get back into the world of work. Mr. Speaker, I want to just conclude with something that has always troubled me, and that is gender-based violence. This ministry has received commendation from the UNFPA this year for the work that it has done in conjunction with Spotlight. And I will just read a few excerpts. You know it. I think some of you may have to call 914 from time to time. It works, and it has helped a number of persons. This year alone, we received over 15,000 calls on 914 as compared to last year, 12,000 calls. From the Survivors Advocates Program, we have managed to have over 1,200 interventions helping those survivors of gender-based violence. Our Legal Pro Bono initiative, which complements the government subvention to legal aid, providing free legal service to persons experiencing domestic violence, continues and is a collaboration between this ministry and the Guyana Bar Association. Mr. Speaker, we have 500 free cases so that we can at least help 500 persons experiencing violence. Mr. Speaker, I want to read you just a few, and I will leave this with you as the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security is the national coordinating entity for Spotlight in Guyana. It leads in conceptualizing holistic national efforts for preventing and responding to GBV, engages other parts of the government in such national efforts. If there's any distinguishing feature of Spotlight in Guyana, it must be national ownership. At the most recent NSC of the program, the minister committed to incorporating elements of Spotlight into national budgets, noting in particular the preventive community-level activities that address the root causes of violence. We would have established the Community Advocate Network, and we would have trained persons, hundreds of persons, in 8 of 10 regions. Mr. Speaker, this Spotlight initiative worked towards providing support on the draft domestic violence bill, the gender-based violence essential service package for Guyana, the 914 24-hour hotline service, the GBV app, and the Cop Squad initiative. Thank you to the person much maligned just now in a very, anyway, the person, Minister Robeson, thank you for cooperating with this ministry. So together we would have achieved training of 1,400 plus police officers through the Cop Squad 2000 initiative. Mr. Speaker, the Survivors Advocate program continues to work as it's all across in the courts of Guyana. We also have shelters and a collaboration between the Ministry of Legal Affairs and this ministry will yield the Hope and Justice Centers, where we will provide all the services required for persons experiencing domestic violence under one roof. If this is not something to be proud of, then you're blinkered as usual. Mr. Speaker, I would like to leave you with the final comment from this report. The level of commitment, this is from the UNFPA Spotlight Country Report. The level of commitment of the Minister of Human Services and Social Security and the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security in advancing a holistic approach to addressing gender-based violence in Guyana is exemplary. Spotlight played a catalytic role, which now promises longer-term sustainability thanks to political leadership, sound legal and policy frameworks, and integration of models and services in national mechanisms and budgets, all buttressed by community-level engagement and civil society partnership. Mr. Speaker, I could go on like this for many hours, but I know my time is at an end. I want to say thank you to the people of Guyana for the privilege of serving them. We will continue to service, continue to deliver to the people of Guyana. We do so with humility, and I say to my colleagues, my brothers and sisters on the opposite side of the House, cross the floor, support the budget, because this is only just some of what the 2023 budget promises for the people of Guyana. Transformational, innovative, cross-cutting, and simply spectacular. Thank you very much.